Welcome, golf fans. This is your golf guru bringing you the BMW projections, pivots, sleepers, fades, and a report card on my Northern Trust picks. So let's get into it. All right, so last week I picked between the 11K to 9K ranges. I wanted to fade Morikawa. This was mainly due to a PGA hangover, and that worked out really well. So I hope you folks took my advice, as he did miss the cut. And then I said, hey, take those shares and some of that money and move it over to DJ. And as everybody knows, he crushed the field 30 under and ended up with a record DraftKings points that has never been seen before. I think the closest was Jordan Spieth back when he won in, I think it was the Sony in Hawaii a long time ago. But so that was a huge, if you had Dustin pretty much in any lineup, you were going to cash no matter what the rest of the field or rest of your team looked like. And then the down note was I also said my sleeper, the pivot two, would be Mr. Brooks Koepka, who ended up withdrawing. But good news is he withdrew early enough so we could transition and make some changes. So overall, I liked where I ended up at the 11K to 9K range, and hope you fared well. Okay. 9K to 8K range. I said same thing with Finau, just super chalky. He was a good fit for this course, but just had some things I wasn't super excited about. So I said, hey, you know, let's transition over to Hovland. And if you took that advice, again, he had a miscut, and Hovland ended up with a T18, so that worked out well. Nice leverage play, saved about $600. Then my sleepy pick was Tommy Fleetwood, who, you know, started out okay, kind of faltered at the end, but, you know, for that kind of leverage, a T44, at least he got you to weekend. A lot of the chalky players did not accomplish that. At the 8K range, same thing, just super chalk. Wolf, I think, was running a little above his pay grade in some areas, especially with the approach that he could not sustain, and really did have a good, you know, a good tournament. Just had a terrible Saturday. And so he ended up T44, but if he did make the shift, even though about the same price, but you did get to the weekends and you got both T25s with Hatton and Rose. So again, you know, for the cost, you hope for a little better finish than that. But again, you know, at least you got to the weekend and got points, and it would help your roster. The mid 7K range was just a debacle all over the place. You know, Doc missed a cut. Varner missed a cut, and of course Phil missed a cut, and now he's actually playing on the Tour Champion and leading the tournament, I believe, by 5 strokes as we speak. And I am recording this. It is Wednesday, 1 o'clock. Funny enough, I did record this yesterday to try to get this out sooner, but right at the end, as I was about to release it, Webb Simpson withdrew. So, and he was actually in my sights to be the winner of the BMW coming up. But anyways, moving along. So didn't do well in the 7K range, but I don't think anybody did on that one. From the 7 to 6K range, Cameron Davis, you know, came out hot. Actually, I think it was leading on Thursday, but kind of faltered down the line, but still ended up with a T29. But, you know, again, I was looking for a leverage play, and so I said, hey, you know, you want to pivot over to Fratelli, but he actually ended up missing a cut, so that didn't work out so well. But the big positive was if you did take my advice and went with Cam Smith, and who was less than 1% owned, ended up with a T18. So he could have definitely helped your roster lineup, and, you know, it was a good call on that side. Now, lastly, fade sleeper in my winner. I was fading Scheffler, which, you know, amazing enough, he had a shot of 59. He did great, so huge miss on that. He ended up at T4. But my Lanto Griffin call, who was at just about 2% ownership, you know, what I was kind of mentioning is anytime Lanto's under 7K, he always 10x's his value and points, and he did again this week with 72.5. So he was a T58, but again, if you needed that last spot filled because you were putting some studs up top, he would have, you know, done pretty solid for you. And I missed big time on my winner, Patrick Reed, who was chalky, but, you know, I just thought, as everybody else, I guess, did, that this would fit really well, but he just kind of muddled along with an even 3 under, a 3 over. So, but he did make the cut. So overall, I give my grade for Northern Trust. I'm going to give myself a B. You know, I had some really good calls with the Cam, the Dustin Johnson, even Lanto here, but still a lot of room for improvement, of course, with that mid 7K range. All right, so let's get on to what we are here for, and that is the BMW Championship coming up. And so I'm doing a little different this week because there is only 70 players in the field, no miscuts. So that's, I guess, somewhat a positive, but this is, you know, a lot trickier to actually hit the GPP. And everything that I'm going to be discussing here is focused on the half milli maker, trying to, you know, differentiate, try to win that. And actually had some interest. I'm kind of glad that I released this later because I watched Tiger Woods' press conference this morning, and he was really the first that I saw insights on what the course is playing like right now and what it should play like this weekend, where all the information coming out for the industry was, you know, this is going to be very similar to Harding Park, and it's going to be, you know, the Bombers are going to be able to take advantage of it because it's a par 70, but long. And if you heard Tiger's press conference, he says it's playing more like a U.S. Open. Fairways are going to be at a premium, so we're going to need driving excellence. And so you could really go two ways. And also what's interesting, I was actually looking as Webb Simpson as my pick to be the winner this week. If you look at some past history, back in 2013, you had Fred Furyk win the U.S. Open here and even shot a 59 that day. Now, I guess the weather conditions just allowed for that. But in short, it shows you, as if you know Fred Furyk, or Jim Furyk, that, you know, he doesn't hit a long, but he is the most accurate driver on tour, hitting greens and making putts. And so some of this that I'll be discussing today is built around that. So let's get on with it. So who is heavily honed up here is Justin Thomas at 18.5. And so I'm going to be pivoting, and hopefully Bryson will get off the schneid with, you know, I think he made some changes. He thought he found something to keep things straighter, and I think that messed with his game last week. But why Bryson is, you know, he won the 2015 USAM at Olympia Fields. Still has 4 top 10 since the restart, you know, won the Rocket. His only miscut other than the Northern Trust, you know, and the miscut at Northern Trust was, you know, mainly due to just the putter. And that's very rare. I try to track back and try to figure out the last time he actually was even negative. And so when he had the miscut at Memorial, he was negative 0.2 putting strokes. But if you go back, I mean, I don't think he gets the credit for, you know, what a good putter Bryson is. And so I hope that we'll see that form. And if he does, you know, we'll see him at the top. So I like Bryson to transition and pivot to get, you know, around that 10% ownership. And same with Rory. You know, Rory's game, as we all know, since the restart has been really rough. But with a less than 10% ownership, I always look at DraftKings as a lot like buying stocks. You know, buy low, sell high, and try to get off, you know, the real chalk bombs. Like last week, you know, the chalk just blew up all over the place. So if you did position off the chalk, you had a really nice weekend. You know, even though, you know, what's been odd is that, you know, this last of the Northern Trust, Rory lost strokes off the tee, which he hasn't done since January 2019, where, funny enough, he still plays third doing that. But really the putting and around the green has been his Achilles heels. He lost 6.5 strokes putting against the field at the Northern Trust, which he hasn't done anywhere close to that since 2012. But what was intriguing at Northern Trust is what he was kind of faltering on, but really improved in, was he gained 5.1 strokes on approach. And that's been an issue. So with that going up, I don't see Rory missing off the tee like he was. Also, I think if you looked on Saturday when he had the 2 triples, you know, he was just gunning. He was doing things that he would have never done, but knew after those 59s and 60s were put on Friday that he had to do a lot of catching up. And so he was, you know, taking risks that he would never take. So, you know, I'm in on Rory. I'm going to be transitioning over to him. And I see a top 10, if not maybe a top 3 for this upcoming tournament at the BMW. You know, accuracy is going to be, as I mentioned, a premium. and length. So if you have those combinations, really no one fits that better than Rory. All right, Morikawa. Again, just very heavily owned. You know what? And I can't say this is a bad play. With everything that I know about, as I mentioned with the course, that you are going to have to be accurate. And Morikawa is one of the most accurate drivers on the tour. Now, the negative is POA, which these greens here, it's a bluegrass, which is a bent and a POA mix. POA is a negative putting surface for Morikawa, but he has played here in his college days and done well. And the last time he had a missed cut at the Travelers, and he just came out the next weekend and won the workday in the playoff against JT. So again, a solid play. I'm not gonna, this might be some chalk you want to eat, but if you are looking to gain, a little leverage on the field, Mr. Jason Day, who I think is already a forgotten soul, is at, again, just barely 10%, and this is his favorite putting surface, POA. And so if you looked at, even though the success Jason was having with the 4 top 10s over the past 5 tourneys until the recent miscut, there was still room for improvement for Jason Day on the putting surface. And so if he could just get back to the form he was, it was kind of, I think, just a bad couple of days. Who knows what was going on with the back? But I mean, he struggled. I think he was losing about 6.5 strokes to the field on his approach, which that is not typical. Again, did some back research. The last time that happened was at Medina a year ago, actually at the BMW, but total different course. So also Jason is a past winner of the BMW. So again, at a different course. So really I look at those two things, I kind of throw them out the window, but long story short, I see that this could be a very positive. He was off the tee, gaining an approach, and had room for the putter improvement. So I would look to get some Jason Day coming up here. And then, Patrick Cantlay, he's just, he started pretty well after the restart, but then it's kind of faltered. But why I like Patrick this week is, again, ownership less than 10%. I think he's kind of a forgotten man. POA is a positive putting surface for him. It's not his favorite, but it is positive. He's just been barely losing strokes on approach. And, his major issue's been the putter. He's been losing almost 4 strokes with the putter. So, I see his past 8 events, he's been positive on approach. He's been increasing off the tee, and if he can just get the putter going, I can see a top 10 coming for Cantlay, and he's due for a breakout. So I'll be also rostering Mr. Cantlay. All right, it's going to look the same. Again, Wolf, again, is super chalk. And, he's actually came back to earth at the Northern Trust with his approach. Now, I'm not going to, put it all on that, but, he was gaining, I think, almost 7 strokes in his 7 to 4 strokes on approach in his last couple bits. And that's a little high for him. But again, right now his price and his ownership is just getting so high that I just can't, I can't justify it. Again, this was a guy that no one would touch just a few tournaments ago where he was just struggling. So yes, good recent form, but we had a peek into what happens if if he kind of just goes wayward just a little bit. So I will be going back to Patrick Reed. And again, he's only about 10% ownership. And you're going to know the ownership is because, again, remember, there's 70 guys. A differentiator of 10% is huge this week. So, even though he's not at 5% or 4%, still getting a 9% differentiator is going to be huge. Why Reed? POA is a positive putting surface for him. He almost lost 2 strokes last weekend, which that is not typical. We all know Patrick Reed is a great putter. His approach is on fire, and if his putter just gets back to normal, I can see Reed, top 15. I'm not going to pick him as a winner this week, but I kind of like where he can end up. And then Adam Scott, this is an interesting one, but again, he's less than 10% owned, but POA is his best surface, and he's been losing strokes. I think he lost almost 2 strokes putting and around the green at Northern Trust. And the short of it is this will be Scott's first time playing back-to-back weeks since the restart. You remember he had that long break. He didn't come back for quite a while. And so the one thing that I know about the game of golf is the more you play, your short game and putting typically gets better. And he's nowhere typical of missing, strokes all the time. Now, his putter can be very streaky, but around the green, he's solid. And off the tee and irons is just dead on. So someone that you're going to need. All right, looking at the top 30 range. Russell Henley getting super chalky, which is amazing. I never thought I'd say Russell Henley is 8,000 at 18% owned. You know, this course does suit him, so I'm not going to sit here and say he's a bad play for this course. But what is interesting is POA is his worst putting surface, and he's actually been putting way above his average. So he's been gaining almost 3.5 to 4 strokes the last couple rounds. And if you went back and tracked before that, before he was losing on average like 3 strokes for like the past 5 tournaments. So could he, you know, is he getting hot with a putter? We could say that, but at some point that's not sustainable for someone that averagely is not that great of a putter. So actually on this, I think he's going to kind of come back to earth, and I think I see him somewhere below the 35, you know, position ranking when it's all said and done. So I'm going to move shares over to Champ. Again, the one thing that Champ does better than almost anyone is hitting that low bullet stinger that just runs dead straight for 300 plus yards, like every time, automatic. Now, even though POA is not his best putting surface, but funny enough, none of the putting surfaces, he's just not a good putter. But how I'm looking at this is, you know, if his off the tee was not great at Northern Trust, and so that gets back to where it is normal. He was only just a little below on strokes losing to the field. He was 0.4 off the tee. If he just gets back to his typical gaining 2 to 3 strokes, all the way up to 5 to 7 strokes, but I'll take gaining just a couple strokes off the tee. What that's going to, in turn, it's all going to work its way down to the putter. So he's going to be in the fairway. He's going to have length. He's going to have a shorter approach shot, which means closer proximity to the hole, which in turn means a lot shorter putts, which that's what Cameron Champ needs to be successful. And now to my darling last week, Cam Smith. You know, I can't jump off this now. I think he's, you know, in good form. And, you know, came through with a T18, as I already mentioned. I don't think he's going to be as sneaky, but he, you know, he's not the 0.5, but he's only at 4% owned. People, you know, are not jumping on yet. And, you know, even though he did overachieve with his approach, but if he can just gain on his approach and off the tee, you know, he was, I think he can have an amazing tournament. I think he can be a game changer. And I actually am thinking he could be a top 10 this week. So I am going to be putting shares into Cam Smith. All right. I think this is a super chalk bomb. I don't know why, but Mr. Steele is at 17%. And funny enough, I would always looking at Streelman. You know, I always look at Steele and Streelman, very similar players. Streelman's a lot more accurate off the tee. And Steele's actually trending down. You know, he ended up with a 44th at NT. He was overachieving on approach and putting versus typical standards. I actually see Steele ending up somewhere below a T50. So I'm going to be pivoting. I'm actually looking at Adam Long with a 4% ownership. You know, POA is actually his favorite putting surface. He was losing over 3 strokes putting last week, and he's been struggling a little bit off the tee, which is not typical for him. Adam Long is not long, but he's pretty accurate. But his approach has been super strong, gaining 4 strokes, you know, over the last 4 tournaments. So if his putter gets a little better on his favorite service, you know, you mix that all together again, I see, you know, probably a top 25 for Mr. Adam Long. And then probably one of the lowest owned, and this is going to be my Cam Smith pick of the week, is CH3. This guy loves POA greens, and he's been struggling mightily with the putter, which is, you know, not typical of CH3. He's a pretty good putter. He is going to need to get his approach up, even with the, you know, off the tee. He's going to have to get that up. But if he can just improve a little bit on both of those and have some success on his favorite POA greens, you know, I think he's going to do well. And also, we got to remember he just came off an injury, so I think he's got like, you know, 1 tournament under his belt since, maybe 2 max. So yeah, if you're looking for a sneaky, the sneaky pick of the week, I'm thinking CH3 with that ownership level. All right, now I'm going to do 2 more this is what I call the hidden gems, and this is going to be the key. It's always the key to win the GPP, but if we can find the right guys in this area, especially this week with only 70 players, where you can, and I think the way to build the lineups this week is the studs and duds, you know, that's going to be the winners. And so, you know, Gooch is already coming in heavy ownership, over 14%. And, you know, I actually like playing Gooch. I play a lot of them. I put him with the Matt Jones, Sam Burns kind of camp. but you know, he's just gotten overrated. And we kind of talked about this is a stock market like esque, and you know, I'm not saying his price is way over, but when he gets to this kind of ownership, you know, I'm looking to pivot. And so if you look at Gooch, you know, he's been losing strokes on approach and off the tee, but he gained 6 strokes putting at the Northern Trust. Now he's a decent putter, but never gains 6 strokes. It's very rare. And POA is his best surface, but what I was looking back, whenever he gains that kind of high stroke, his next tournaments he typically loses or barely even breaks even. So I just thought that was, I was trying to see when else has he gained that many strokes putting. And it has been rare, but when it has happened, I kind of looked at what happens next, and it falls dramatically. So I'm going to be moving over to Brian Harman again. You know, Mr. Accurate, and POA is his best putting surface. He's trending in the right direction. You know, he had a 27th at the Wyndham, an 11th at the Northern Trust. You know, he's gained in all areas. You know, only on the putting side, he only gained a stroke, which I like to see that. I don't want to see the guys that, you know, had, you know, gained 8 strokes on the field, but, you know, 6 of it was putting. So he has room for improvement even with the putter. So I can actually see Harman top 20 in this weekend. So I'm going to be moving some over there. And then Mr. Bobby Shelton. You know, why I like Bobby this week, it's kind of intangible, to be honest. This isn't a statistical pick. This is just some different things that I've got to pull. So he loves Olympia Fields. He's had positive history here playing in his amateur days. So I think that's interesting. You know, he also was in an interview that just stated, hey, he recently has found something with his coach and is playing with super confidence. That's unmeasurable. I get that, and not tangible, but you know, you hear those things and it, you know, that, hey, this is a thing that I want to look at, especially when we're getting down on this price. We're looking for some little different, unique things just other than statistics all the time. But what was also interesting on a statistical side is POA is his favorite putting surface. And, you know, he's been gaining every other category, but been losing 1.5 on putting. So, you know, if it's off the tee and his approaches can, you know, stay consistent, I mean, I think we could have something really, really nice here. So, you know, I think it could be a shock the world. And I'm putting him a top 10 and above for this weekend. All right, so let's get to the fade, sleeper, and winner. This week, it kind of hurts me a little bit, but I am going to be fading Big Dick Vic. And the reason why is POA is his worst putting surface. And the funny thing is that Vic has actually been struggling, which is not normal for him, but struggling off the tee in his approach. That's usually where he gains strokes. And funny enough, at the Northern Trust, he was actually gaining all his strokes on the putting. And we all know that he's even stated around the green, he just has really not much confidence. He's getting better, but so I'm just with that kind of ownership. And like I said, I think if he plays his typical game, this course could set up well for him because he is good tee to green. But that's been kind of struggling, and I think you know, to even get where he got last weekend was all due to the putter, and that's rare for him. So again, as I already mentioned, my sleeper is going to be Robbie Shelton. I already mentioned all the reasons why, but I will be putting some heavy ownership into him. And then lastly, your winner, Daniel Berger this week. He is coming in very super chalky, but I think this is a chalky got eat. And so with that said, I hope you guys have a great BMW Championship.